Well, the moment you've all been waiting for has arrived, and quarantine has given me time to talk about TV shows. So without further ado, The Haunting of Hill House.
Would you wake us up from a dream like that?
The Haunting of Hill House is a 10-episode Netflix miniseries written and directed by Mike Flanagan. It tells the story of the Crane family, a fractured family with a dark past linking back to their time in a haunted house 30 years ago. And over its 10 episodes, it explores the lingering trauma left by living in the house, as well as the individual scars and demons left from it, haunting each member of the Crane family. There's really no way to talk about this show without avoiding spoilers, and given that it came out 2 years ago, I am going to be talking about some stuff that will be considered spoilery, so if you haven't seen The Haunting of Hill House, turn this off, go to Netflix, you have no excuse not to watch it, you're in a quarantine, binge all 10 episodes, then come back. The Haunting of Hill House is one of the best horror television shows I've seen in my entire life. It's the saddest, most affecting work of horror I've ever witnessed, and that's in part due to Flanagan's incredible writing, but also due to the fact that, at its core, it's not really a traditional horror story. Sure, there are ghosts, but the ghosts are there as set dressing in a way. They're there to highlight the individual family traumas of grief, of loss, of mental illness, and not to be the center point of the scares themselves. And I've never experienced a single series that made me openly sob as much as this one did. And I don't mean cry, I mean full-on bawling. Every episode, from episode 3 onward. Hill House is just a marvel on about every single level. There's the incredible production design of the house itself, which makes every inch of the place feel alive, with dozens of ghosts hidden in the background throughout the series. The cinematography is masterful and some of the best I've ever seen from Mike Flanagan's work. Every shot has some implicit meaning, every shot is framed perfectly to elicit the maximum amount of pain and dread possible. And that doesn't even begin to cover the absolute masterpiece that is episode 6, Two Storms, an episode which is, in total, comprised of about 4 different takes. The first scene of the episode is one long 18-minute unbroken shot. It never cuts. It never hides any trick edits. It is one take. And every scene that follows is also one unbroken take. And in the actual episode, there are about 4 cuts total. And it's all complete with brilliant camera movement and staging that makes the episode itself feel less like an episode of television and more like a stage play. Every part of it feels so incredibly raw and real, and you're just sitting there watching the family deal with a raw tidal wave of emotions that comes from losing a loved one and having to look at their dead body sitting in a coffin. It's the most honest depiction of grief I've ever seen, and it carries through to every episode both before and after. This entire series is framed around a death, and that death is felt so heavily in every single episode of the series. But that's not even the true highlight of Hill House. The real highlight is in its writing, in its characterization, in its acting. The combination of writing and performances from the principal cast is nothing short of phenomenal. Carla Gugino again proves herself a stellar actor who never ages and delivers a stellar performance that really helps you believe that she is descending into complete insanity, until it comes to an award-worthy head in episode 9. And Victoria Pedretti as Nell delivers a star-making performance in what is shockingly her first role ever. And from her performance in this series, you would never know it, because she is on another level. There are no bad performances in Hill House, but Victoria Pedretti as Nell is by far the standout. From the honest and incredibly realistic depictions of depression and addiction and mental illness, to the truly wonderful and heartbreaking monologues that come as a result of these things, these characters are all deeply flawed, but in the most realistic and emotionally crippling way possible. You understand why these kids grew up to be so broken. You understand why the father had to shield them so much. You understand why Luke grew up to be a heroin addict. You understand why Nell grew up to be cripplingly depressed. And the show never once goes out of its way to stigmatize or glorify these things. It just depicts them honestly. And it's that honest portrayal of real-life issues that makes it so easy to attach to these characters. It's that honest portrayal that makes us bawl our eyes out in episodes 4 and 5 when we get to see Luke and Nell's respective stories. And it's that honest portrayal that makes us absolutely horrifying and sad when the traumatically shocking twist at the end of episode 5 is finally revealed. This is yet another adaptation of Shirley Jackson's novel The Haunting of Hill House, We got one in 1963 with The Haunting. We got one in 1999 with The Haunting. It was bad. And while I can't call the 2018 adaptation the most faithful adaptation, I can, without question, call it the best. And a big part of that is due to the changes that it makes. The original Haunting and its adaptations are mostly focused on the haunting itself and Eleanor's fragile mental state, but these characters don't know each other. They're just there to investigate ghosts. But Flanagan's adaptation goes so much deeper than that. By making them a family, you give them that connection to each other. You have a reason to care about them. You understand the relationships between all of them and the dynamics at play. And by delving into the family's history with the house and the way it shaped them, it adds a whole other layer that was never found in any of the other adaptations. How it affected them as children, how it turned them into the people they are now. That deep dive into mental fragility, into trauma, into loss and grief and tragedy, that's what elevates this series to so much more than just any other horror series. It's not just a story about a haunted house, it's a story about a family and family tragedy with ghosts as a catalyst. I've heard some critiques toward the show, mainly toward the ending, which I've seen some claim is too happy, or that it doesn't mesh with the tone of the show at all, and I don't agree at all. Not only do I think that the ending is perfect for the story being told, one about overcoming grief and hardship, and finding something better, but it's also one that feels totally honest and in line with the rest of the story being told. Just because it's not a downer ending doesn't mean that it's not a good ending. And Hill House has an ending that completely sticks the landing, in my opinion. In conclusion, Hugh Crane is the unsung hero of the series, Nell Crane deserved better, and The Haunting of Hill House is, unquestionably, a genre masterpiece. Take advantage of quarantine, go on Netflix, binge this shit, don't do it while you're in a bad mental state. The rest is confetti.
You don't have to worry now, sweetie. That really bad dream? Of course I'd wake you.